love tea. Welcome guys to Tea with me, and in today's episode I want to show you how the other day I discovered getting the vintage look on my photos. So, and for this we need just Lightroom, and I figured out that two tools are like kind of two tools in Lightroom create this vintage look, and they are just color grading and graduated filter, and probably it might be the vignetting too. So let's go and try it out in Lightroom, and I'll show you what I could get out of the photo. So I'm going to use this photo, and this photo I took when we were making very tasty grilled fish right here. And so I want to make this photo look vintage, and the first step will be to look at the basics, at the tone. I'm not gonna touch exposure, but I will tweak highlights, shadows, whites and blacks. So I'll decrease highlights a little bit to give some details to the tin foil, and I'm gonna increase shadows a little bit because since we decrease highlights, I don't want my photo to be too dark, and I feel like that the grill is too dark, so I will increase blacks. So make it a little bit brighter, and I'm going to add a little bit of whites. I don't know why, but I don't know, I just feel like it. And the last thing is I'm going to add a little bit of dehaze to kind of give life, a little bit of contrast to the photo. And I'm going to cut the photo by 4 by 5, 8 by 10. This is usually standard portrait mode for Instagram, so I'm gonna adjust a little bit. I'm gonna open this thing and kind of customize it a little bit so I see both ends pretty good. Yeah, so but these exposure settings will be different for different photos, and so it's just tweaking and playing with it. Now let's get to the tone curve, because I feel like the photo is pretty flat and I want to give it a little bit of contrast to separate parts, a little bit of punch, you know, like pam pam punch. I just want to add this punch. A little bit dramatic, but so usually I start with 3 dots like this on a tone curve, sorry. And let's try the standard S curve, but I don't know, I don't really like it, so I'm gonna tweak it a little bit. Maybe I'll get some here, and I will add a little bit of, I'll add a little bit of to the highlights. See, highlights get accentuated. I don't know how to say that. But then I wanna tweak a little bit of midtones. See, give a little bit of brightness to midtones, I guess. So see, the photo was flat and now it's a little bit punchy, has a little bit more details, a bit more contrasty. Maybe we could even make more. No, I think that's good for the vintage photo. And now I'll do some magic by using color grading and graduated filter. That's what will make this photo a little bit more vintagey now. So since I want to mess with colors a little bit, and now to create magic, first I want to do HSL, hue, saturation and luminance. And in this photo mostly I'm gonna manipulate with orange, yellow, green and blue, because I see that they're mostly that colors in here. With the orange I like to make the hue a little bit see if you do that, if you like do the extremes, you can see what it affects. I like it a little bit reddish, so I'll go to maybe -9 or something. I'm not gonna touch the saturation, so I'm gonna increase maybe a little bit of luminance, so to make it brighter a little bit, so that our photo is not super dark. I'll get to yellow again. I like more, so if you can see, right, and I like yellows be more on this side, and I will desaturate them a little bit, and then a little bit light it up, increase the luminance, +13. Green, I like to make it all the way to the right, so that I can make this, you know, green, so it is green color, you know, green. That's a very descriptive description. But I also like desaturating, so I desaturate it, and I feel like that makes sense to desaturate it for vintage look, and even a little bit decrease the luminance. So with the blue color, I don't like this hue. I will move it a little bit to the left, -11, desaturate it a little bit, and increase the luminance, make it a bit brighter, so we don't have this sad picture. Okay, so we're done with HSL. Okay, so next step is going to be now color grading shadows and highlights, and this is where the photo will take already this vintage vibe, you know. And why? And I want to use orange and teal. And why? Because first of all, they're complementary colors, so they're very pleasing to eyes, and second, I think it makes sense to give to vintage photo orangey teal kind of look, because most dominating, and of course orange will dominate over teal, and because most vintage photos mostly, right, has orange or yellow colors on it, so it's like a dominating color. My tea is cold already, but okay, so now let's get to the color grading, to this magical tool that will start shaping our vintage look. And the first thing I do is I check if what prevailing here, what's shadows or highlights. And what I do is just any color I choose, and I go to extreme like that, boom. Okay, check the color, the shadows, and let's check the highlights. So we can see that the shadows, there are more shadows in this photo, so I'm gonna add a little bit of warmth, probably something like this, and then decrease saturation a little bit. So I'm gonna make shadows a little bit warmer, and then I'm gonna add teal to the highlights. So if you look at the tin foil, you can see where it affects. See? And I know even though it's like slight changes, I saturated slightly, but I promise that it makes a huge difference, because look, before and after, it looks a little bit already vintagey, like old kind of photo maybe, or taken on an old camera. So that's kind of cool, and you can tweak the balance a little bit. So you can, yeah, I will decrease -5 so that we have more warm than teal. Here you go. And now we should add the signs of wear off or light leak, but I think it looks more than I think it looks more like wear off than light leak, so I'm gonna use a graduated filter for that and some vignetting. So now to show this sign of wear off kinda, I'm going to use graduated filter, and it's right here. You can press it here or just press M, you know, and then this is how graduated filter looks. You just drag it like this. I want to do it in on the what's it called, on the corners. And what I do, I just take blacks and I just destroy them. I make them bright 100% to the right. So I create this kind of, see, like a whitish, like a weared off, or you can call it whatever, you can call it light leak, but I think it's like wear off. And you can create another one and it will keep the setting the same. And you can increase, see, you can increase the area, you can increase the area. So and I'd like to turn it a little bit so it makes wear off right here on the edges. See, it kind of creates this wear off, this white out the corners, and I think, and then I figured out, I tried using vignetting but in opposite direction, and that adds even more to that effect. So see, it's widen out, so I wide out a little bit. So to find this midpoint, I take the feather and I went all the way to the 0, and I just manipulate with the midpoint because I wanted just the corners. I reset the feather to 500, just click 2 times on it. I'm gonna control the amount of vignetting, so I'll add a little bit of it, and see, it kind of looks like weared off a little bit. I don't know, I'm really pumped with this when I discovered this, because it looks so good, and I can adjust this one so that the sides look a little bit weared off too. I think it looks cool. It makes this photo vintage, old looking. I forgot lens correction. I forgot to do it at the beginning, and see, don't make mistakes that I did, because that's not a good idea. So yeah, it's a good idea to correct the lens. Here's the lens correction at the beginning, not at the end, because when you correct it, okay, you remove chromatic aberration, it doesn't do much thing, but when you enable profile corrections, see, it distorted, and sometimes it makes the photo brighter a little bit. So I think it's a good idea to make sure that this is enabled, the profile correction, so that you don't mess up with the exposure, because it's a good thing that in this photo it's not brighter than it's usual, but usually it happens, and just I have to go back and change this exposure, which is double work. By the way, you can also add grain, and you know, grain always makes the photos look old, so you add pretty heavy grain, increase the size a little bit. I mean, it's up to you, it depends on your taste. I like it around like this, probably. Yeah, this looks good for me, and this grain adds even more feel, like film. Maybe make it so it's a size rough, a little bit more rough. Yeah, like that. And yeah, this is what we get. This kind of photo we get this vintage looking, old, worn off photo, and I'm really pumped about this. So now you can go and try it out too for yourself, for your own photos. And the main idea, I think, this whole tutorial is just experiment with all these tools in Lightroom, Photoshop, doesn't matter. Just experiment, and you know, you'll find something exciting. That's how I figured this out. I was just sitting, just trying out different things. You know, I wanted to make it look a little bit old, and I was experimenting, and I got it. So thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button if you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And if you have any photographer friends, or somebody is interested in photography and just started out, just send this video to them. It might be interesting, might be helpful. and I'll appreciate that, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.